So I am super excited to say hello to my very, very good friend, Mr. John Huddleston from Upstaging.
Hey, Marcel, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, John, considering, just like you, I know we're both busy doing things that I guess 2 months ago we probably never would have seen ourselves doing mid-March or the end of March 2020.
Yeah, my gosh. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we wouldn't have seen ourselves doing these things.
It's true, isn't
It's
it?
amazing how fast it came along.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had some huge, huge tours out, right? You had, I know Billie Eilish, I think, was just going out or just gone out.
Yeah,
Which
we were in the middle of, I could tell you, we were in the middle of Pearl Jam, Billie Eilish. We were building Rage Against the Machine. We had huge corporate events going on,
Yeah,
McDonald's, Target, some work for Walmart. We were just going gangbusters.
yeah,
In fact, right now we should have 150 people here prepping lighting and video systems and all kinds of things. We should have
yeah.
300 trucks on the road, but
It's
it's wild how it shut down. It just, and it was like the first domino that fell was some corporate, right? We started to see exhibits and displays go away, and we do some of that work, so it was slightly affected, but we were like, okay, well, the concert touring is still moving, and then all of a sudden trade show or corporate meetings started to fall. And I mean,
yeah,
we're talking within 24 hours. And then all of a sudden the corporate meetings started to fall, and you started to say, well, you understand the corporate meetings, they're sensitive, to PR and the optics of everything. So they're going to fall away. And then all of a sudden the concert tours, I think our first one was Pearl Jam, because they're located in
Seattle, yeah,
Seattle.
yeah,
And so, and they obviously, rightly so, they were concerned about their Seattle folks and schools and everything that had closed, and their families. And so they were the first one to cancel. And I can't tell you how afraid I was at that point that it was just going to be a domino effect.
yeah,
And certainly it was. Everything just started to fall out, one at a time. I would say within 4 days, we went from our normal huge busy spring to zero, which
yeah,
is just, it's just incredible. Nobody,
yeah.
and I want to tell people out there that don't beat yourself up. Nobody saw this coming. I hear people that are saying, well, I should have done this and I should have done that. Look, don't beat yourself up. There's no way that anybody saw this coming. The smartest people in
100%.
the world, I guess, maybe unless you got a classified briefing and you were able to sell stock, I suppose. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
but nobody saw this coming. Don't beat yourself up out there. It's we got to just move forward and do the best we can for everybody that's here and everybody in the industry.
yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I think has been really positive to see is that our industry, for the most part, we're not out there in a cat fight. Everybody's pulling together, and I'm part of a group chat that includes, because it started with a podcast. We did a podcast a week ago with myself, Eric Loader from Elation, Ben Saltzman from ACT, John Wiseman, and John Featherstone. So first of all, there's right and left wing people in there. There's competitors. ACT and Elation are bitter competitors. And this group chat that we've kept going since that podcast is just unbelievable, where we're sharing business ideas with people that you never expected to be sharing business ideas with. And so it's pulled companies, competitors even, closer together versus further apart. And
I
that's
agree. I
amazing.
will tell you that even here at Upstaging, it's made us even closer.
Yeah,
How there's, how in any company, you've got different factions of people that are all working towards the same goal but apart. You've got the transportation and trucking people working in one area. You've got us lighting guys. You got fabrication. Everybody's doing their own thing, and it's amazing now how everybody's pulling together. We're all on one team, big
yeah,
time. We're all.
yeah,
I'm trying to find trucking loads. They're trying to find lighting, not lighting, but necessarily, but fabrication
yeah,
ideas and
yeah,
solutions. And
Yeah,
so
no, it's incredible.
it's amazing. Teamwork is incredible. So we're happy internally. We're happy, and we're also we're also out there looking at what's going on in the world and seeing what great things that our freelance people have been doing, and
Yeah.
taking some classes and learning. I see that Grand MA, and I think it's Hypnotizer, are offering free training so that people that
So
are at
many
home can
companies,
sharpen
so
their
many
skills.
companies. Elation with their Obsidian controls. Martin has free training. ETC has free training. I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of the things I'm constantly stressing to people. We came up with this term, day 91, we call it, which is basically the day after,
Yeah.
So the first
Yeah.
day, everybody's back to work. All the tours are back on the road. What do you want
Right.
you to look like? What do you want your business to look like on day 91? And,
Yeah.
if you sit here today eating Doritos on the couch and watching Netflix all day, I can tell you what it's going to look like on day 91.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you do things like what Upstaging and John Huddleston and Marcel is doing right now, I think day 91 is going to look better than before this started, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yes, there's going to be some recovery to do, but John, I really want to get into talking about what it is you guys are doing through all of this. But before we do that, I want to take sort of a quick sort of blast through the past, because
Okay.
for me personally, upstaging, without blowing smoke up your ass, upstaging is certainly one of, if not my favorite companies in the entire industry. And we haven't been as close recently as we used to be, because I was a supplier to you, and now I don't have reasons to call you every day, and you don't have reasons to call me every day. But I think we still love each other.
Well, hopefully
And
that'll change now. We should
yeah,
talk.
yeah. Well, and secondly, guys like you and the people you work with are absolutely some of my favorite people in the industry. And, I could name 100 examples. A couple of my favorites are one, the very first time I was invited in to come and meet with you guys, I was with Martin. At the time, Martin were not a significant player in the rental world. And you took the meeting. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I got to your office and you showed me around a little bit. And then you said, "You know what? Let's get out of here." And I said, "What do you mean?" And you said, let's go to the outlet malls." And you took me to some outlet mall up the road from your shop. And you
Yeah.
convinced me, which later on in life I realized this was going to happen many times throughout my relationship with you, but you convinced me to buy this Casio thing that was like an early version of an iPhone or a
Yeah.
Newton or whatever the hell it was. It
Yeah.
was the biggest
Yeah.
piece of shit I ever spent money on. I never did figure out how to get past turning it on. I
Oh
could
yeah.
never use it. And it
Yeah.
was compatible with nothing, but it was a
It's like
very
me with a
early
Grand
PDA.
MA2.
Yeah.
It's like me with a Grand MA2. I wouldn't know where.
Oh my
I have no
God.
idea. It's flying a plane to me.
This thing had no value to me, but that first visit was the coolest first visit I ever had, and I already was in awe of your company and the things you guys were doing, and I really wanted to get Martin into the rental business,
Of
and you
course.
kind of dragged me by the back of my hair into the rental business. And at
Yeah.
times it wasn't easy. You put us out
Yeah.
on the Eagles and we had some failures, and you worked through it with us. And you became a huge customer to Martin over the years. But the second favorite sort of memory I have in my relationship with you and your crew of maniacs over there is when it was either you or Donnie, I think it was you, who called me up and said, "Do you want to be part of our crew on a show in Grand Cayman?" And I said, "Sure, but I have absolutely no skills." And you said, "It don't matter. You're just like a bullshit part of our crew. You don't have to do anything, and
We
we'll
have to
just do
scuba
some
dive.
diving. We'll do
Yeah,
some
we're just gonna
diving."
dive. Yeah,
And
that was
so,
with Butch Allen. Butch Allen was
right.
and I've got a fun story about that too. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so the band was garbage, and it was something for, I think it was Gillette or somebody.
No, it was a Degree. It was
Right,
Degree
Degree.
antiperspirant, and there's a town in Grand Cayman called Hell, and
Yeah.
it was Degree something hotter than hell,
Yeah,
and
and they
like
took
it would keep
100
you dry.
contest. It was 100 contest winners that they took to
Yes.
Grand Cayman for a private concert
On a charter.
with
Yes.
garbage.
Yes.
And so you guys would do your work whenever you had to do your work, and then we'd walk straight out behind the stage into the water, and we'd go dive the wall or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
it was one of the coolest experiences of, my time in this
My,
industry.
mine too. Mine
Yeah.
too.
And just
I
so
thought,
greatly appreciated, that
oh,
kind of
that's
thing.
funny.
So that's
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 funny.
the stuff that always made my relationship with upstaging, so amazing. And it's some of the stuff that just, has always sort of sat like, I don't care how much stuff I sold you. Yeah, I sold you a lot of stuff at some points in my career, nowhere near as much as most companies did, and that didn't matter to me. What mattered was just that I just always felt really good around you guys, and you always treated
Thanks.
me, even though High End had much better gear than I did or whoever did. You always treated me like they're equal and as one of the guys, and so I appreciate that, and it's always sat, very close to, it's why I appreciate the company and you guys so much. So
Thank you.
so yeah,
Thank you.
so the way the company started, I think, was very similar to what I'm talking about right now. It really was just a group of friends kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was friends with the guy that started the company. I was friends with friends of his brother. Uh, they needed help. I was working at O'Hare Airport loading baggage. I was 18 years old, going to college part time, full time. They called and said, "Hey, we need some help." I was loading baggage from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then I would just go over to this place called Upstaging and I would start to put connectors on cables and thought it was pretty cool. And we ended up doing that, for a whole summer. And then I was getting ready to go back to college, and they were like, well, what about going out on this cheap trick tour? Would you be interested in that? And I went home and told my parents. I said, well, I'm going to take a year off of college. I'm going to go do this thing. And my dad was kind of thrilled in a way because my dad's business wasn't doing that great at the time, or I don't know what he was going through. He was never real vocal about it, but I saw that he was like, okay, good. I don't have as much money maybe as I had before. So, and I was flying. I was going to a pilot school. So I was flying, and it was expensive. And so he said, hey, cool. Why don't we, take a year off? And I'll never forget, he said, but, you don't take drugs. And so,
He
and we
knew a little
didn't.
bit about the rock and roll touring business, I guess.
He said, don't take drugs. Oh, he said,
Yeah,
he goes, all those people that are on those tours take speed. Don't take speed. Don't take drugs.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we didn't. I'll
yeah,
tell you, we were just suburban kids from the suburbs of Chicago, naive perhaps. We tried to save our money, whatever it was. We weren't making any money, but whatever it was, we weren't going to spend on drugs. And,
yeah,
at certain parts, it made us outsiders. We weren't in the right group sometimes, because we weren't cool.
yeah.
But we were just working, man. We had a great time, and that was 1979, 1980, I think was I don't even remember the exact date, frankly. We just started,
Yeah.
and so here we are 40 years later. It's amazing.
It
It feels
really
like
is.
yesterday. That trip to Grand Cayman is funny. That you mentioned that, because we got the opportunity from Butch Allen, lighting designer for Garbage, great friend, funniest guy on the planet, I think.
Yes, he is.
And he called and said, "Hey, do you guys want to do this thing?" And we're like, "Yeah, we do." And the technicians will be everybody that scuba dives here,
Yeah,
plus our friends that scuba dive here.
yeah.
And I think you got your hands dirty. I think you helped set that stuff up. But I'll never forget Butch. We had a light where we had to replace a studio color. And so we took one down, we put one up, and Butch said, "Okay, address it to whatever 302." And I was like, "Uh-oh." So I got up on a ladder, because remember, it was just this little tiny stage against the water. I got up on a ladder and I started to go through the menus. I have no idea how to address any. Right?
You were
And
almost as
Butch yelled,
useless as me.
"Oh, yeah, totally."
Yeah,
And so Butch yells out, "Just tell me what the number is. I'll change it from the desk." You can tell I'm struggling, right?
yeah.
And but I don't know if you remember, but we went on a night dive, and he was
I do.
programming at night, and he took the lights and he shined them into the water behind the stage,
I remember that.
and the animals that came out, and
Yeah.
it was just incredible. Probably my favorite night dive ever. And so we thank Butch for that. That was pretty cool. So
Well, it
what
was
a great
just so cool walking off the back of the stage and just climbing into the water and walking out. I think we swam
yeah,
out maybe 20, 30 yards and there was a wall right there
yeah,
and you
yeah.
just dive down the wall.
Yeah, I
It was
told there
just
was a
crazy.
remember there was a landing craft and a statue, and
Yep.
we're probably getting off track now, but I will tell you that those are the kind of experiences that I also think about.
Of
And you've
course.
been a great friend for many years, and
Yeah.
we did some business together. But like all of our partners, we're friends first, and we do the business as
I
part
love
of the,
that.
as a, and honestly, and then I suppose our philosophy never was actually stated, but I will tell you that there's a what we should do in this business is separate business and friendship. What we should be doing is saying, look, business is the business part. But that my what I at upstaging, it's what I do is this business, but that's not
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah.
And so let's make sure that we're all taken care of and we're all friends, and then the business is a separate thing.
Well,
And I think that we always kept that.
I can attest to that, that's how you've always treated it, because I always knew when you called me for a friendly call and when it wasn't so friendly, and I took you very seriously. I have no problem changing hats between the friend and the
Yeah.
business relationship. And I grew up in a similar situation to what you're talking about, where the people around me were my friends, and I was usually the boss. I usually either owned or managed a music store, a guitar store, and I
Right.
hired all my friends who were guitar players to come in and sell
Yeah.
guitars. And it's so challenging when you have to fire someone, or when you have
Oh
to
my gosh.
reprimand someone, or when and
Hmm.
you know their kids, and you know their wife or girlfriend, or
Oh,
the stripper
yeah.
that they're dating this week just got a boob job and needs the extra money, or all of these things, right?
I never knew anybody like that.
You know their story, and
Yeah.
yet you have to sit there and say, Bob, you're just not doing a good job. You're giving people guitar lessons and you're not selling any guitars. What do you want me to do? And
Yeah.
I know you've had hundreds of those conversations, but I always knew when you were serious. And I
Yeah.
think I treated you, like I would any other customer, even if I thought you were my friend and stuff. But going back to those early days, so you know, uh, to me, I recall it basically being, there was an owner of the company who really just kind of said, "Hey, I've got this band, and I'm going to buy a few lights," and then it just kept becoming a few more and a few more and a few more,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, you've got a real lighting company, and you're hiring all your friends from school and your brothers and whoever, and that's how the company came about. And it was Cheap Trick that kind of founded the company in a sense, right?
No, I don't know. There was before that. It was really, going back really early. We did Leonard Skinner,
Oh,
and I know, and Leonard Skinner was. I want to say that, and again, I might not have it right myself. I will tell you that it's almost folklore at this point. But I know that one of the first ones was Leonard Skinner,
oh, interesting.
and I know there's crazy stories. I think that one of the stories was that the crew guys were telling me that the band would come out and say, "Hey, we're all going, a day off," and they would say, "We're all going out tonight. Anybody that don't want to go to jail better not come." Stuff like that. They
Jesus.
they they were a wild bunch, and I know that was part of the beginning, and
Yeah.
then there was a lot of other things. There was high school. You have to think of the Midwest back then. It was you've got bands like Styx and REO and Bob Seger and of course Cheap Trick and Kiss was a Detroit band, and so the Midwest was hot. The Midwest was the hottest area at that time in the late '70s and early '80s. It was a hotbed. I mean, you got Prince up in Minneapolis. You got,
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on and on. There was
Yeah.
tons of work out there, and it was local. So we would do these bands in high schools. I mean, there would be,
Yeah.
yeah, high school. Imagine that now. But a high school would ask for a small lighting system, and then we'd be there and we'd be cranking the lighting system up and doing sticks, in a high
That's
school.
crazy.
But I think that for me anyway, Cheap Trick was the big one. But they were already, by the time I got on board with Cheap Trick, they were already huge. We were doing
Yeah.
arenas. I think the first band that I actually toured with that started small and then blew up was the Police. We were doing police tours, small police tours, and then all of a sudden we're doing Madison Square Garden one day.
That's crazy,
And
isn't it?
I like to think that that's how upstaging was formed. It was wild. Not that we ever had explosive growth, but we've been growing so slowly that all of a sudden, if you stop and take a look at it, you're like, oh my gosh,
What
where do all
just
these people
happened?
come from?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It was like
Right.
watching a puppy grow up. Like everybody
Yeah.
else is. They come to your house and they see your puppy and they're like, "Oh, what a cute puppy!" And then a year later, they come to your house and say, "Oh my God, that dog is huge! What
Yeah.
happened?" And
That's
it's really a lot like that for us. We don't even notice. We're just like, going along, and all of a sudden, we're just. Yeah, I remember thinking that every summer we could do another tour. Like there was
Yeah.
a period, I don't even know when it was, maybe it was the mid 80s, late 80s, that we could do like another tour, and then we could do another tour. And then we were thinking, wow, every summer we could probably add another tour. We got friends like Marcel out there that can provide equipment, and the deals were flexible, and it was fantastic. So we'll just do like another tour and then another tour. And then I remember that Eagles tour. That was a milestone for us because it taught us how to do stadium tours. It was the first one that really taught us a ton of lessons, and we were able to learn from it and be able to apply that later on. It was our intention as a company, to do this work in a professional level. We wanted to be in the big leagues, right? We wanted to
Yeah.
be a company that worked at the highest level of the business, and
But you
and we
guys
were
never
watching.
grew. You never grew in an uncontrolled way. You
No,
grew. You grew
very
in such a controlled, and your quality was always so incredibly high, and there was a huge amount of integrity in everything you did. If upstaging did it, it was going to be done right. And I mean, in my company today in Gear Source, when gear comes from upstaging, people always trust it. They'll trust it more than maybe gear from some other company or whatever, right? Because they know you take care of your stuff and you do it right. So
well.
that means everything.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, it's what do we have to sell here? I mean, there's obviously there's people that do things. We have to sell quality. We can't sell price. Once you start selling price, there's an end in sight. We have to sell some quality, and we have to sell this Midwestern attitude of making sure that we're working hard, and we're here at the last minute, and you get us on our cell phones, and we're going to solve problems.
Yeah.
Make yourself essential, and that's one of the things that you had put in the notes about asking what's my advice to people. And I think there's people out there right now looking and saying, look, I'm going to restart my career. What kind of advice is important to me? And I would say make yourself essential.
Oh,
Whether that's a
absolutely.
company, whether that's a person, but make sure your boss knows your name. Make sure that you're the last one to leave, first one to get there. Make sure that when the chips are down and all of a sudden you got to work long hours or something comes up, you're the first one to raise your hand. That's amazing.
You
I
know
feel
who
like
really drove that point home on a recent podcast I did was Cosmo. Cosmo, just
oh yeah,
his work
great
ethic
work ethic.
and
Yes.
and his attitude. I'll do anything. I'm always going to be the first one here, last one to leave.
Yep. Yep.
And that kind of thing, like people just can't say no to you forever. And that's I built a career on that, by the way. Like no education, no advantages, no rich parents,
That,
no nothing. I
that,
built a
that,
career on just hustling and working harder than all the people around me. And
yeah.
so going back to the early days a little bit. So one of the things I remember when you were walking me through your building the very, very first time was you showed me some pictures of the original KISS sign, and you guys built the very first KISS sign. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, I believe that's true, and I've got some early pictures of that. So that would be Bob Peterson, and I think some of his friends, they there's some great pictures of that. The pictures from the '70s are so funny. Everybody's
Yeah.
wearing short shorts and long socks and everything else. But we just didn't say no, Marcel. I guess part of our culture is also to say let's find a solution rather than just passing. If we have to pass, there's just no way we can do it. And we don't
Yeah.
want to let anybody down. But on the other hand, keep our eyes open. What are the
Yeah.
opportunities that are out there? And that's
Yeah.
something that we're trying to do right now is make sure that we keep our opportunities wide open and
Well, and
and
at
make
the
sure
same
that.
time, I know that you guys are not afraid to say no if you don't think you can do it properly.
Oh, I
Yeah.
guess people tell me we're kind of known for it, which
Yeah.
is I suppose good and bad. But if we can't supply the right people,
Yeah.
and supply the equipment, you probably get more equipment, but you really want to supply good people and make sure
Yeah.
that they're taken care of. And the timelines I got shorter and shorter and shorter. All this technology shortened our timelines. I remember when I was first bidding on tours in the '80s, people would send me a Federal Express, and I would get a plot, and then I would type up a thing on a typewriter and send them a Federal Express back, and then they would call up and say, "Oh, well, let's make these changes." So then I would type something, send them a Federal Express, and they would. So and we all thought this technology was going to be amazing. It was going to be open. Now there's cell phones. You can get me, anywhere I am, and then there's computers, and I can email, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is going to make it so that I have a lot more family time.
Yeah,
And in the end,
sure,
all it
sure.
did was, yeah, all it did was increase capacity. It
Yeah.
increased our workload in a way. And
Well, and it kept you
and I,
connected during that family time that you used
yeah,
to have as downtime, you know?
exactly right.
Yeah,
So
so
so I think that I'm not against technology. I love it. I think that I'm a junkie, but I think that if I have to say one thing bad about technology is it shortened our timelines. We're able to react faster. And somebody told me one time, they said, my clients are too demanding. Their timelines are too short, and I'm really frustrated. And I said, well, I feel the opposite. You know what? If we can't make ourselves a faster company and react to this, then we're just going to get left behind.
yeah.
So, a turning point at Upstaging might be in that I really felt like we needed to be faster at what we do. We can't control our clients. We can't ask our clients to do anything differently. What we need to do is adapt and adapt.
The
And
problem is
obviously
though,
we'll talk
the
about.
yeah,
Go
we've
ahead.
all created crazy expectations though, and really right now immediate isn't fast enough. So people
Mhm.
are expecting you to anticipate needs, anticipate
Yeah.
problems, anticipate,
Right.
so react before the problem even happens. And it's getting crazy. I mean, where instant isn't fast enough anymore, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to technology. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible. So one of the other things I want to mention about sort of the history of upstaging is, and you talked about the puppy that you come back a year later and it's a dog. I remember the first time I walked into Sycamore, and I was blown away. I mean, first of all, you and Donnie made me leave right away because I think I showed up right before lunch, and you said, "Let's go for lunch." And in typical Huddleston fashion, let's get out of here. Let's go to lunch. And you took me to downtown Sycamore, I think, and to the bike store. And
Yeah.
I'm not much of a bicycle guy, but I walk in this place and I see 100 of these like banana seat
Great.
bikes with the big handlebars that I had when I
Great.
was a kid. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit. And of course, Donnie knows everything about every one of them, and
Yeah.
takes me through an education of these bikes and why you should have this one versus this one and all of that kind of
He just
stuff.
got one. There's one over. He just
Oh,
bought
that's
a really cool little
hilarious.
vintage. They're called crates. It's a Schwinn crate for the people out there that are
Perfect.
following. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
mine was just a stolen bike that came from Bobby, but I didn't know what it was called or anything. I just took it one day
Yeah.
because he wasn't using it. Um,
I didn't have a bike like that. I didn't, my dad probably garbage picked one and put the wheel, blew the tires up and,
that's pretty much
maybe,
how mine
I
went.
don't even remember bikes, but,
Yeah, but again, going back to that facility, and I haven't been there in a few years, so it's probably twice as big now. But when I went to that facility, I was just blown away, like the just everything about it. Because Mundelein was quaint, it was nice and everything, but it was a very typical
well, you should
rental
have seen the
shop.
places before Mundelein.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. But to go from there to this new place with the cafeteria and the killer rehearsal space that you had in there with the little studio on the inside, and just such a cool facility. And I was like proud for you guys, what you'd accomplished at that point. And I wasn't really thrilled about driving through, 45 minutes of cornfields and your directions. I remember being like turn left at Main Street or whatever, and there's like 40 different main streets, and turn left
Yeah.
at the lamp post or whatever. You're watching for all these little things on the side of the street that are your landmarks.
Yeah.
And but what a cool place. And you
Thanks.
guys definitely should be proud of what you built. One last question about just sort of the upbringing of upstaging. At what point did everyone look around and go, okay, we need an adult in the room? Hud, you're going to be the GM, you're responsible for everything now, you got to be the grown up. um, when did that
That,
happen?
wow. I don't know if I would describe it happening like that. And it certainly wasn't over one day. Um, I think that, again, to get back to my thing about making yourself essential, I think that, uh, I fell into. I think I might have been one of the first people here to have children, uh, and and I was concerned about concert touring, of course, like a lot of my friends are, and
Yeah.
existing people are out there touring. You have to sometimes you got to look at it and say, what's right for my family. And so I can empathize with everybody out there that has a family and they're on the road. And it's the thing that breaks my heart the most when people call me and tell me that, something's not working out well with their family and they're out on the road, so,
Yeah.
oh man, it's one of
So
the things in
hard.
this business. Yeah. It's crazy, but, people like to think, we're all nomads, I mean, that's not true. We're all family people and we're just trying to make a living, so I would guess that, I I might have been one of the first ones to get married and have a family, and I started to say, well, I'm going to make myself essential. So I started to work in the office and come in and sit down and try to help out, and pretty soon, just the way things shifted and things like that, people started giving me more responsibility, and more responsibility, and pretty soon. I wouldn't say I was ever totally in charge. I never felt like that. I still don't really feel like that. What I feel like is that I'm just on this team, and sometimes I'm the leader, and it's great, but that's the way it was. I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm just saying that there was never one day where they just said,
Yeah.
"Okay, you're the." I don't even have a title. I still don't have a title. I call myself different. I call myself different things all the time. It
That's
depends on
funny.
people asking. I'm director of
Yeah.
live events, or
Yeah.
I'm general manager. I'm the,
Yeah.
but it just, I'm the guy. You know what? I'm the guy that showed up. I'm the guy that started to take that angle and say, "Hey, I'll stay in the office. I'll work on this. I'll help out." I used to build systems on Thursday and take them to the Aragon on Friday and do the shows, local shows. Just anything that I could do to sort of still be able to go home once in a while
But for
and make sure
sure,
that everybody there was good.
yeah, the thing that's important though is I think if you were to ask any of Upstaging's clients, vendors, or employees who's in charge, I don't think anyone's going to have any question whatsoever, with or without a title. So you could call yourself the CEO, president, manager, chief operations officer, head dishwasher, whatever you want to call yourself. But
Yeah.
everyone knows, who to call when something needs to get done or when shit hits the fan, right?
Well,
So,
I appreciate that. I don't know. What I say is, maybe what I'm doing is this, I'm delegating well, it's possible.
yeah, yeah,
And I have to say that I send emails out, and I'm starting to beat myself up a little bit about that. I'm sending emails out at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, just as things come up, because obviously our business is 24 hours a day. And I'm thinking, what am I doing to these people that I'm sending these emails? So I don't need an answer until the next morning. Why am I sending this email out at 9 o'clock when it can wait till morning? So I'm
yeah.
thinking about those kinds of things now, that people that are out there that have families and they're busy with their own lives, and staff around here, and so I got to tell you, Marcel, I'm always concerned about how things
Yeah,
are running, how things are operating, for our clients and our staff. So
yeah,
I'll classify myself as this: I'm just a guy in the middle. I'm in the middle of our clients and our staff, and I'm just trying to navigate.
yeah.
And
Well, you're
yeah,
doing a pretty damn good job for the most part. So,
thank you.
um, moving on, I mean, obviously, the reason that we decided to jump on today because, I've obviously been talking to you for a year to get you on to my podcast, and I do appreciate you doing it finally. But the reason that we really wanted to get together today was to talk about these initiatives that you're working on. Um, which I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but it's an emergency response initiative, I guess would be possibly a good word for it. Do you have a name for it? I'm going to actually share it on the screen just in case we end up sharing the video.
Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, I think that what we're doing right now, Marcel, is obviously, the business as we know it, paused. I'm not going to say it stopped, because it's just paused. And I want everybody to know that we really feel like it's coming back, and when it comes back, it'll be strong. And the other thing that I want everybody to know is it's going to come back sooner for us than it is for maybe some other industries, because we're going to have to ramp up again. People will want their lighting systems built, and their fabrication done, and their trucking moving, and they'll want that well before they're going to hit the road, of course. And look, our clients, this is how they make a living, so they need what we do. Nobody should panic. That people, our clients that tour and present these wonderful, fantastic, creative shows need our help. So we're still
Yeah.
going to be moving forward, and we're going to do it sooner than everybody else. So as soon as we get the all clear, I don't know what that's going to look like. The all clear is scary, because I don't know what is coming. I don't. I don't know when people can gather in groups of 5,000, 10,000, or 20,000 or more. So,
Well, and
let's hope that.
one of the challenges there is going to be liability. And, so unless there is, some sort of a government issued indemnification program, where basically there's a law created saying that people cannot sue venues or sue uh, acts or promoters or whatever for getting a virus because they went to a concert. Basically, you bought the concert ticket, you chose to be in this crowd. There are dangers just like any other crowd. And so that to me remains a bit of an issue because,
Yeah, I
even
think
if
common sense is going to have to prevail.
does it usually
I
though?
don't. Yeah,
Does
I
it
know, but you know
usually?
what? I think even more. One of the things that's going to change here. We see things changing all the time. All these restrictions and rules, and we'll get to that in a minute. But they seem to be going out the window, Marcel. People are interested right now in time, in delivery, and what we can do for the emergency services. What they can count on us for quickly. And when we say, early on, I mean, this is changing. We feel like we started a new division of the business on Friday, right? We're
Yeah.
and some of the first calls that we made, people were concerned about, well, what about this regulation or that regulation? And we're like, look, you know, we can't, we don't have time to do all the research and get all the attorneys going and get all the testing going. Here's what we have. Here's a sample. You tell us, is this something that because otherwise we'll move on to somebody else that has a need. So, the early needs, remember, we're early on in this as far as our reaction as a country goes. And we need, and people are sort of waking up to the point where it's like some common sense should prevail.
Yeah. Well,
We need,
let me take you back just a second here. So
you know,
you woke up at one point one morning, you stayed up all night, whatever it was, and you said, "I've got people, I've got facilities, I've got manufacturing capabilities, I've got all these things. How can I enable these things to not only support, sick people and governments and things like that, but to support, the well-being of our employees and their families and to keep people working?" And so how did that all come about?
yeah, I mean, it was just, what can we do to keep people working?
Yeah.
It's what can we do here that allows us to keep some staff on and keep as many people working as we can. Again, simply, maybe it's even selfish in that we want a company to come back to. We want the same good people. We want the same good culture and things like that. So we're fighting to make sure that culture is strong when we come back, because there
It's a
is another
good
side
point.
of it.
Yeah, that's a
So
very good point.
we have to react. We have to set an example for our people and say, look, we're stick with us. We're going to try to stick with you as long as we can. But we need to do some things here that we can do to keep people working and keep them moving and really keep them joyful. I mean, there's a lot of joyful attitude. Travis Schaefer and his staff in fabrication are the point people on this. They're fabricating things as the demand comes up, and they're problem solving, and you can tell. Although they're worried about themselves and their families and what's going to go on in the economy, they're also, you can tell they're energized, by this new
Pride.
initiative. So,
Probably a real source of
so
pride too.
it's tremendous,
Yeah.
and so we're doing what we can to move forward.
Yeah. No, it's really incredible. I mean, the manufacturing side, I saw that you created some masks, some face masks that,
Face shields, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And the idea there is to keep people from, what do they call those things? Droplets or whatever.
Droplets, or
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are the face. So what we did is we came up with a face. Well, first of all, we came up with something that, look, there's a marketing side to this. We can't, we're not going to make something that a sewing circle can do in a community garage, right? So, we had to make something that's a little higher tech, a little bit more, but still meets the needs of our first responders and people on the front lines. So we came up with face shields. I mean, it was just an idea. Between, I don't know, me, Travis and the Fab team and things like that. We said, we can make these and let's prototype them. So we prototyped them late last week, Saturday, I have been in the office every single day since this crisis. I mean, I'm not Saturday,
Crazy.
Sunday, it didn't matter. We're just trying, to create something here. So we ended up coming up with a face shield, and we made some adjustments to it. We sent it to a few people and said, what do you think? They gave us some great suggestions. Some first responders gave us some great suggestions. We realized early that these are probably for the people that are on the front lines, but not necessarily. This isn't an operating room or an emergency room or OR kind of a ICU. I mean, this isn't that kind of a medical mask. This isn't something that goes into a sanitizer for 2 hours before
No,
it gets
it's
shipped. And
something that guys in your shop would wear. It's,
oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
something
I
that
mean,
your own guys
so
would use, right?
there's one. Yeah, we made them for the fire department. We got the fire department to come over and talk to us about what they need, what it should look like. There you go. And really gave us some great tips on what
So
they
what
had.
does that clip
And
onto?
then, I'll put it on.
Oh, it's just a strap around the back.
Right, it's just a face shield.
Yeah.
And
I will
but
have
obviously
screenshots of that, of course, right? To be shared.
But protection is there, and it's important that what they do is, let's say the Sycamore Fire Department, for instance, when they respond now to an emergency, they want their people to wear these, whether they're EMTs and so forth. They want them to wear this mask. They don't know what they're responding to, and their people need to stay safe. So if somebody's coughing, if somebody is obviously sick, they don't know why. Of course, it could be the virus. It could be that they're just a person who's sick, and so they want to be somewhat protected from, like you say, droplets. But you would wear a fabric mask and like an N95 mask under this. This would be to protect your eyes and your face from any kind of airborne droplets. So. And that's important, but we're finding that people are ordering them for cashiers at stores. We're getting people from the testing, people that are doing the testing of people from cars, and they want them. They're somewhat, and we're not advertising these as reusable, because honestly, it's up to you if you're going to reuse it or not. It's up to your organization and how you feel about it. But we made sure that they're optically clear, that they're fog free, and they can be wiped down with alcohol.
Yeah.
And so that they can be clean. And again, whether people reuse them or not, I have no idea. But this. So anyway, this was the.
So how do people buy that? Is it just governments and sort of officials that you're selling to now? Or?
We're getting orders we got an order from the state of Illinois for several. We're getting orders in. We're selling them in minimums of 25 right now, and we're just trying to get them out there. But we've had orders for thousands also. So we're ramping up construction of the raw materials, the CNC machines to cut masks, to do all the stuff that we're doing. And, orders are coming in.
And how are you selling it though? On your website, like a direct e-commerce kind of thing, or how's it being sold?
It's straight over the phone. And people,
Really?
we've got email and over the phone. We've got people here on the phone, taking orders, at home taking orders. They're sending orders into us, and we're going. I would say the biggest response certainly has been nursing homes, the mental health facilities, first responders, things like that. That's been our biggest thing. So we're out there. Now it's starting to be cashiers. Frankly, now we're getting a lot of orders from retail. So we're doing the best we can and getting the word out there, and that's the main thing. It's just getting the word out there. I mean, we started doing this 4 days ago, so
that's incredible.
And we're out there trying to get the word out that we can do this and keep some good people busy. We're not making them for free because we want to keep people busy, and the raw materials are strangely fluid. And what I mean by that is people are asking, are people gouging for any of this stuff? We certainly are not. It's very fair, but what we're finding is that the raw materials are getting more expensive only because people are trying to meet demand. So let's say instead of shipping these over by sea freight, they're flying the raw materials over. Instead of trucking them, a 10-day trucking trip, they're sending trucks for dedicated loads to go get the stuff. So it increases the cost of raw materials, obviously increases our cost, and we're trying to cover our labor and raw material costs And that's, really what we're after here. So,
Yeah.
but that's just one of many ideas. I mean, I got to tell you, we're making room dividers. We're making great room dividers. We've come up with a really nice lightweight room divider that's made out of a plastic and that we're able to wipe down. And so we're making room dividers. We have a lot of graphics capabilities. A lot of people don't know that we have a full graphics facility here. So we're making signs, we're making graphics. We've got, and we're not there yet for, like, you'd mentioned Gallagher earlier, and people aren't necessarily they're not building field hospitals right now. They're not, maybe in New York City that's starting to happen. And of course, I hear they're taking Javits Center over, maybe some hotels and things like that. So, but we're not finding that demand right now, but let's hope it never comes. I keep telling people, let's hope that we stop selling these shields tomorrow. I mean, let's
You'd
hope
rather
that,
get back to the rock and roll lighting business than selling plastic shields, right?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously we're hoping this ends, certainly quickly, but since none of us can see the other side of it, well, we're just going to, pivot to this work. And I'll tell you, another strong thing that we're doing here is trucking. I mean, we're a large trucking company. It's always been a strength of Upstaging. We've got hundreds of semis. And the unique thing about our semis is there's a few things. One is that we're used to an on-time service. Obviously, the contract touring industry requires we're on time. Our equipment is immaculate. Our trailers are amazing, load control and everything else. I mean, it's not a freight trailer.
I don't know if you still do it, but I remember you used to pay bonuses to people for washing their trucks, to drivers for washing their trucks.
I don't remember that.
I know you're not in the trucking division, but I remember always hearing that, because every time I went to a show where they had Upstaging trucks backstage, they were immaculate. They were so clean. And I asked somebody about it once, and he said, because we get paid extra for washing the trucks, basically.
I can see, I
Makes
can
sense.
see that.
I mean, that's brilliant,
for sure.
if you ask me. So.
Yeah, you know what? Recently, I got a really nice compliment from the guys from Paul McCartney. Paul I can't remember where the show was, but all of our trucks were really nicely lined up. Our crew chief, our lead driver, had lined the trucks up really nicely, and they had all cleaned them. So they had all gone through truck washes, and they got them all cleaned up. And the production manager, Mark Spring, called, and he said, "Hey, just so you know," he said, when Paul got out of the car today, it was right by the trucks, and he stopped and he turned around and he looked and he said, "Man, this is really cool. Look at these trucks. How cool is this?"
That's awesome.
That's the stuff that jazzes me up. I mean, I used to listen to Paul McCartney as a kid.
No
right?
kidding.
And I've met him. I tell people, they say, "You ever meet these people?" And I'm like, "Not really." And, I have met Paul. And they said, "What was that like?" And I said, "Yeah, all three times he said, 'Hi, I'm Paul.' I said, 'Hi, I'm John.'"
Oh, that's so cool.
All three times.
Awesome.
But I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember me. And my point is that, that's, and when you said, have you had an aha moment? Well, I guess for me, that was my aha moment, because I listened to the Beatles when I was a kid. And I remember being in my best friend's room, and he got the albums from his sister, and we put them on, and we'd sit there and listen, and, he had a record player, and we'd sit there and listen to the Beatles music. And so doing those kind of things, that's my aha moment. But,
you're screwing me up by answering my questions before I'm asking them to you, right? This is an interview, John. You're being a bit of a control freak at this point and taking over my interview.
That's not me, right?
Answering questions I haven't asked. So that's not me.
I'm here to anticipate your need. I'm here to anticipate your needs, Marcel.
That's incredible. No, I mean, what really is blowing me away about all of this is, as you said, you've entered some other industries that you never knew anything about. You were not in them a week ago, and all of a sudden Friday you're manufacturing, these masks, and you're doing these other things. And that to me is incredible. And honestly, I love what you're doing. I'm going to try my best to help you. I've actually got a couple ideas during this call, which I'll email you after we're done the podcast. But, I love it. I'm sharing it with as many people as I possibly can. I introduced you to a very influential guy this morning who I think can really, you can help each other. I think he needs some of the things you have, and I think vice versa. So I think that'll be really good. But anything else we need to know about this, what you're working on here, this disaster relief thing?
I think that, to get back to trucking really quickly, though, I think that what people don't realize is that we haul millions of dollars worth of equipment in each trailer. So our insurance is second to none. A freight company doesn't have that kind of insurance. So we have we already have the kind of insurance that is needed for high value loads. So we're looking to move medical supplies. We think that
Yeah.
we're uniquely qualified to move high value medical equipment. I'm hearing these ventilators are costing 40, 50, $60,000 a piece. I don't know how many you can get in a truck, but normal freight companies don't have that kind of insurance. So
Right.
for anybody that still cares about insurance out there, but my point is that we are uniquely qualified to do on time and high value loads. So anybody out there that knows of those loads, certainly www.upstaging.com, get a hold of us, call the office. There's people answering the phones here. They'll get you with the right people.
No, that's such an important point. And the other thing is, trucking companies are one of those who are very, very busy right now with,
Yeah.
whether it's Amazon or whoever. Most
Mhm.
people are getting most of their supplies via some online source. And
Mhm.
so they're all busy. So number one, if you can find a trucking company who can take the load, that's one challenge. Number two, they're so busy that service and all of those great things go by the wayside a bit. So if you've got focused people who are used to moving Paul McCartney's equipment, who are now ready and able to move these medical supplies with very high quality and very, very timely delivery and all of that kind of stuff, that's super important.
It
Super
is,
important.
and again, we're hoping the need doesn't arise, but we do think that the need is unfortunately going to be there, and so we're ready to go. And we're pivoting the rest of our company. So, like I said, face shields, room dividers, graphics, signage. We're finding that people need signs, and they walk into different healthcare facilities. If you're feeling one way, go left. If you're feeling another way, go right. Social distancing floor placards. I mean, we're just finding that we're working on anything we can
It's amazing.
to stay busy, right? The other thing that I want to tell people that are listening, that might be sitting at home, they might be out of a job or something like that. I really feel like you hit the nail on the head. There's jobs out there. There really are. And even if they're not the highest paying jobs or what you're used to, they're going to teach you something. These jobs are out there that will teach you a skill, a new skill, and I tell people all the time. One of the favorite jobs I had was when I was making minimum wage. In fact, I think I was making less than minimum wage at a store, busting tables, right? And one day the assistant to the cook didn't show up. So they said, hey, jump in there and help the cook, help the chef. He's making steaks. And so I helped. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, here, now take over grilling this area of the steaks. And I started grilling, and pretty soon I can make an excellent steak. And I still think
Yeah.
that's one of the best skills sets
Yeah.
that I have
That's a
is
very
being
good
able to
skill.
cook a steak, right?
Yeah.
So I
Well,
just
there's
feel like
also a
that.
sense of pride and self-worth that comes from just keeping yourself employed and feeding your family and all of those things, as opposed to just saying, screw it, I got laid off, I'm going to sit on the couch and eat Doritos. Again, I'm not trying to bash people or put people down, but just, people are going to get depressed. I mean, I'm telling you, if you're happy now
Yeah,
taking a break, all of us need a break. God knows,
yeah.
HUD, you could be laid off tomorrow and you'd probably appreciate a couple quiet weeks. But that's never going to happen, however. But the
You
thing
never
is,
know.
after that couple of weeks, you're going to start feeling useless. You're going to start feeling restless. You're going to start feeling all of those negative things. And, God knows that can keep going downwards into depression and everything else. And that's what I
Yeah.
don't want to see. I don't want to see friends of mine, getting super depressed because they don't have a job or because they lost their tour or whatever. It's all that stuff's all going to come back, and it ain't that far out. I keep talking about day
Let's
91. It might be day 61. Like you said, you're going to be prepping rigs. If shows are going out in June, you're going to be prepping stuff in May for those June shows, or in April for those June shows.
without a
And
doubt.
I mean, that's going to happen. And then everybody's going to be short on resources. All these companies who laid off thousands of people, are going to be looking for people. And some of those people are going to have found other gigs or other industries even.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I was talking to recently yesterday. I was talking to this guy that has this solar install company, and it's a big company. They're doing big corporate solar roofs and things like that. And he was telling me it's about bolting things together and plugging things in. It's not about being specifically trained, and they will train, but they're not being specifically talented of solar panel
yeah,
installation.
you don't
You
need
know
to know
that
the science behind it.
No, and you don't need to know the construction skills. Like, they've got guys that are figuring out how, bolting them on the roof and stuff. What they need people to do is bolt together and plug in, and teams of people and people that are used to working.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, boy, here, I know people like that, and so,
Yeah.
and I don't know how they're ramping up, and I can't say that I could, I could tell people that he's got jobs right now, but this is what he was telling me, that and their industry really hasn't stopped. Their jobs, are still out there. Now, the other thing I would say is, hey, keep yourself safe. I mean, if it comes to the point where, you need an N95 mask, or you need a face shield or something like that, use it, and make sure you keep yourself safe, your family safe. Every day I go home, before I see my family, I take my clothes and put them in the washing machine, take a shower. I mean, I'm just trying to do whatever I can to make sure
Good for
that I'm
you.
not,
Yeah. Good for you.
and people should do the same thing. I mean, people should make sure that they're safe, and so, above all, let's all stay safe. But if there's a need out there, and the need is morally also very good, if you need to stock shelves for essential supplies or groceries, if you need to help direct traffic at a testing site, if you need to help at a hospital or something like that, I think the jobs are there. Just keep yourself safe and learn a new skill. I mean, get out there and,
Completely agree.
make yourself worthwhile, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we're going to come out of this. What do you want to look like when you come out of this? What do you
Yeah.
want the world around you to be like? Because you really can control a lot of that right now. I mean, we have this
Yes.
amazing opportunity to improve ourselves and our businesses over the next 60 days. And it sucks. Trust me, I have no income either. Revenue in the used gear business has dropped off about 75% at this point. It might drop to
Right.
zero. I have no idea. But,
Right.
and I've kept everyone employed. We didn't lay anybody off. And
Yeah.
so, it sucks. I hate losing money. I'm not a big
Uh,
fan of losing money.
I know.
And
I totally agree. I obviously, but I try not to focus on that because, is,
yeah,
money is just, I don't want to minimize it, but, it's
yeah,
just, I can't focus on money. What I need to
yeah. Oh,
focus on
I'm
is
not.
just, keeping,
Yeah,
keeping people busy. But I will tell you that the other thing I think about is that our people, some of them are wondering if they're qualified. And I said, man, if you've been in this business, you are uniquely qualified. You're
hell
a
yes.
hard worker. You can pivot quickly. I mean, just sell those attributes to an employer, a potential employer, is that your job required you to get up early and be on time and work long hours and then do it again. And your job required you to go over here and do this. Now go over here and do this, and you did it with a smile. You did it with a great attitude. You are qualified to do anything. This business is crazy.
It.
You're uniquely qualified to do the work. Don't minimize yourself. Don't say, well, I was
You are
a,
so
yeah,
right.
I was
You are
this or I
so
was
right.
that.
I mean, if you can
Yeah.
do this business, you really can do anything. Because I don't know that there's any, like, that's when I started the LED company, and we started dealing with, every once in a while a shipping issue or this issue or that. I always sat with my team and said, this really isn't rocket science, guys. Like, I'm so used to the show business where if it's not there tomorrow morning, there's a real problem because the show's going to be in a different place the next day. And so
Yeah.
when something has to get there overnight, it has to get there overnight. In our business,
No
nobody
doubt.
dies, nobody, I mean, in this other business. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're right. They're uniquely qualified. They have this special education of, the show must go on kind of mentality. And other industries don't teach that kind of stuff. The urgency just isn't the same in most industries, other than, healthcare. Certainly the patient dies. That's a big deal. But
Mm.
aside from that, I can't think of too many where the urgency is quite the same as the show business. So
Or an industry that can pivot as fast as we're
yeah,
pivoting. I mean,
yeah,
look
you've just
look at the
proven it.
last minute stuff that we're asked to do every day. So all we are is an example. We're not leading. We're just an example
Well, you are
of
leading.
what you can do if you pivot.
Hmm.
And so I tell everybody out there, man, let's pivot. Let's but let's also make sure that when we come back on the other side of this, that we're ready to go. And I know we will.
Well, there's definitely people who are going to be watching this who are going to say, damn it, he's right, and they're going to go look around their warehouse, and I know a couple people, not in this business but in other businesses, who have managed to cut deals with Amazon for warehousing, for example.
Great. How
And
cool is
so
that?
they've completely cleared out their warehouse and made enough room to fit Amazon standards to become a warehouse for Amazon product, because Amazon's really looking for extra space right now. They need it, right? God
Amazon.
knows you could be storing toilet paper somewhere, truckloads of toilet paper in a warehouse.
I
Uh,
tell people that Amazon is chasing me, and they say, "Oh, well, that's great." And I say, "No, because they miss me." You know,
yeah, that's funny. John,
I'm
where
the
you
I'm the
been?
I'm the
yeah,
mix. That's what I'm getting. Yeah, they're chasing me, all right. They're trying to figure out where my credit card
yeah,
spending is
that's
going. You know,
hilarious. That's
I'm getting
hilarious.
I'm off of my midnight purchases right now.
So, John, I know you gotta go because you
Yeah,
probably sit looking out your glass doors there at a lineup of people at your door. But
yeah.
um, I want to go through these 6 questions real quick, most of which you've
Okay.
already answered on your own time here during the podcast. I appreciate that very much. So, what is the best piece of advice you've ever given or received? You told me about basically. Well, you go ahead and tell me.
I would say that given, I would say that, like I've said before, make yourself essential. I know it sounds simple, and gosh, I hate to oversimplify it, but it's really not a simple process. I know the people that are here that are essential, that every day they do essential things, and I think that that's fantastic, and they're the most valuable employees and staff. Um, the I guess the the best advice I was given is maybe don't take drugs. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
damn good
but
advice, actually.
yeah, it wasn't bad. But
That's
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I wasn't really given a lot of advice, but my father was the hardest worker I've ever seen, and I think maybe some of that maybe just rubbed off. So,
yeah.
um, and hopefully you can find an example of somebody out there that rubs off on you. That sets a great example, and you just learn from that.
Hell yeah. So the pinch me moment, your biggest career pinch me moment. Again, in this industry, we're afforded so many, and I mean,
Yeah,
especially a guy like you who's been in the touring business for over 30 years now, I think, right? Um,
40,
there's
1980.
that's
I'm
insane.
old.
You
I'm
really
not
are
get
old.
old.
I need to
I know.
find some younger friends. You still
You do.
look damn good though, John. Um, but again, we're so lucky in this business because sometimes, and you probably have a way bigger challenge than I do, but have you ever gone to a dinner party at someone's house and they start telling stories around the table? Oh, well, this one time, I bumped into a guy who just 3 days earlier had bumped into Rod Stewart at a tea place in London, and you got to almost bite your tongue
Yeah.
because you're just going to take over and everybody's going to feel stupid because their stories are
Yeah.
so tiny compared to your stories, right?
It's funny, I tell people they think we're in the music business, and I said, yeah, we're not. We're in logistics, we're in events. Um, I feel like an electrician more than I feel like being in the music business. I know nothing
Yeah.
about music. I don't know anything about it. I think it's we support the music business, I suppose, but I never felt like I was in the music business. So and I think I had one person one time. The only thing I remember one time is that somebody was talking about a celebrity. And they said something about Eric Clapton, and I said, "Oh, well, we work for Eric Clapton," and they were like, gave me this look, like, "Yeah, right." And I saw that look. I was thinking, "Well, that was weird." And I said, "Well, consider this: somebody has to work for Eric Clapton. Why shouldn't
Yeah.
it be us?"
Yeah.
I think that's all I
That's
said. I
true.
was like,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, I guess you're right, right?" So,
So
somebody
you're
has to work
big.
for the Chicago Blackhawks, right? I mean,
Yeah,
somebody has
that's
to work
true.
for the New
Yeah.
England Patriots.
No,
I
it's
mean,
totally true.
it's just, we just happen to work for Eric Clapton.
Somebody has to clean the queen's toilet.
Uh,
Somebody out there right now is telling a story that I clean the queen's toilet. And that's true. Somebody does it,
I'm
right?
going to apply. I'm applying for that job. I
That's
tell you,
probably a
after
pretty
the,
good gig.
yeah,
It's
it's not bad.
pretty well paid for doing something that none of us really wants to do.
Yeah.
So your biggest pinch me moment was meeting Sir Paul first time.
Yeah, yeah, all three times. For 2 seconds, so,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I mean, I've had a few of them. I think that some of the industry pinch me moments would be, looking at tours like the Rolling Stones and saying, wow, someday we want to, man, I would hope someday we could do things like this. And it felt like it would never happen. I'll tell you through, we just felt like there was just this level that we weren't at yet, you know what I mean? And we were going along, and I guess we were getting there, but we didn't feel it. We really didn't know, right? And then I think a pinch me moment would be talking to somebody like Patrick Woodruff and having him say, yeah, you guys are confirmed. and we were, for the first time that we did the Rolling Stones, and we were like, oh my God,
Isn't
is
that
this
more of
it?
an oh
I
shit
mean,
moment? Like, what have I gotten
yeah,
myself
probably.
into? Yeah.
You think about those things. You think, man, we're going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to
Yeah.
Disney World.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. No, it's
I mean, it's,
incredible. You're right. You're right. What
I, yeah,
So you
go
you
ahead.
guys you guys have a lot of gear. You've seen a lot of gear. You've been a part of developing a lot of gear, giving manufacturers. I know you guys were always really great with me when I was at Martin, just kind of putting your arm around me and going, "Son, here's what you need to go back and tell them to do." And I always did, and half the time they listened. But what is one piece of gear that you feel like when you're going out to do a tour, you have to have? That no matter what, every tour has to have this one piece of gear.
I don't know, gaff tape. Yeah, that's well, yeah. I guess that's fluid. That changes. I think it's
Yeah,
going to change now again too. I think there's going to be more personal protective equipment, and it's been growing.
very true.
But I suppose I've seen like Faye McMahon is traveling with. We're all getting older, right? But he's traveling with defibrillators and things like that,
Wow.
and I think, wow, that's really super smart,
Of
and
course, yeah.
um, I hate to think of that, but I mean, it's obvious that that may be something that's required, and wow, how cool is that?
Well,
I don't know, I
I
don't
have
know, Marcel.
I have a
A
very
good
good
attitude.
yeah.
Every show should go out with a good attitude. How's that?
Yeah, no, that's the best thing. What about a piece of gear, something that hasn't been created yet that you'd like to see created?
Hmm. Um, it's a good question. Boy, that's a tough one. Boy, if I had the answer, I would be. I, but I think that a lot of people are working on. Look, LED is so important for a lot of reasons. I mean, we could go on. We could do a whole segment on LED,
Yeah,
Marcel. But first and foremost, great for the environment, great for power draw. Think of the draws on power just in this world, and things going to LED, including our services. Think of the power draw on generators on the big shows that the
yeah,
generators can sort of idle all day. I tell people this all the time. We power our systems up at 11 a.m. with the metal halide, arc systems. We power them up at 11 a.m. We don't turn them off until 11 o'clock at night, and they're operating at full draw all day long, right? And they're
yeah,
creating tons of heat in the ceiling and all this stuff. So LED has come so far, and it's going to continue to get awesome. And we're fully behind it. Lamps are dirty. It's a dirty thing for the environment to have a metal halide lamp, and people, we don't throw them away. We recycle them. We pay a lot of
yeah,
money to recycle.
yeah.
It's important to recycle that stuff. Don't throw it in landfills, things like that. But I can't wait to get rid of that dirty technology. I mean,
Yeah.
let's go LED. Let's make the world a better place.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Who is or was the greatest influence in your career?
I would say my parents. Great work ethic. Worked hard, really hard, to support their family.
That's awesome. I think most of us can say the same thing. And
Sure.
so, Hud, I know we could talk for an hour about how you give back through mentoring and coaching people, training people. You're a very giving, charitable person. But what would you say is your core of how HUD gives back?
Um, I care. I really do. I deeply care about the people that I work with and the people that are in this industry, and to the point where it's not about the business and telling stories and doing that kind of stuff. It's about making sure people are okay and taken care of on many levels, not only employed, but on a family level, making sure that they pivot, to what their family needs and things like that. So I
Yeah,
don't know. I guess I care, Marcel. I
yeah,
guess it's easy to say, and maybe it sounds cliche, but it's I do. I care. I care about the people that we work with and the people we work for, and I like to count them as friends. And I if I come to work every day, I love working with friends and people like that,
yeah,
and
likewise.
that gets me up in the morning, right? So.
Yeah, good for you. Now keep doing what you're doing, and all the best of luck to you guys with these initiatives for COVID and all this stuff. I will reach out to you. I've got a couple of ideas that I think I can help with, and if there's anything I can do, John, please just say the word, okay?
Yeah, well, thank you. And this helped. We really appreciate it. Getting the word out there, and let's see what happens, Marcel. But you and I will have a beer soon
I look
after this is
forward
all
to
over.
it, my friend.
All right.
Be
Bye.
well.